Today, we're covering everyone's favorite topic, Israel. Now, if you've been living under a rock, you may not realize that Israel attacked Iran on June 12th, 2025, in what is being called a preemptive strike. And if you're like, what's a preemptive strike? A preemptive strike is when one country wants to start a war with another country, but they want to seem like they're defending themselves. Of course, the right-wing parrots have just been saying constantly, Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has a right to defend itself. Are you some kind of anti-Semite? Israel has a right to defend itself. They've got to come up with a nice ideology to justify this. And the ideology is, hey, we had to do it because if we didn't do it, Iran was going to nuke bomb us. Now, if you're not paying attention, you may not realize that Iran doesn't have nuclear bombs, despite the fear-mongering for the last 30 to 40 years about how dangerous Iran is going to be because they have bombs. This has not come to fruition. Don't believe me? Let's look at the facts. Here's an Israeli newspaper in 1984 saying that Iran is in the final stages of making a nuclear bomb. Interesting. Does it take 31 years to finish making a nuclear bomb? Maybe you're like, yeah, okay, well, let's take a look at another thing. Here's all the times we've been told that Iran is weeks, months, or a few years away from having nuclear weapons. 1992, they're 3 to 5 years away. 1993, they're very close. 1995, 3 to 5 years. 1996, they're going to get them. It's going to be really bad. 2003, global threat. 2004, they're aggressively pursuing them. 2005, they got to be stopped. Okay, so you guys can take a look at these all the way through 2022. And then, of course, recently 2025, we're being told they have nuclear weapons. We have to bomb them because they're going to bomb us first. Now, if I was a country and I was afraid of another country getting nuclear weapons or having them, I think the last thing that I would want to do is bomb them so they could use those nuclear weapons against me. Now, if I was a country and I knew that another country didn't have nuclear weapons and I wanted to bomb the shit out of them so I could take their land and then they could be no threat to me and the greater Israel project that I want to build, then I would bomb the shit out of them. And if I was a country that knew that I had a way bigger country that was going to come in and fight the war for me and sacrifice its men, then I was definitely going to do it. The one thing that I want to bring in is we really need to be wary of the left-right paradigm they want to put us in. They want to put us in a paradigm where you can have some truths on your side and a bunch of falsities, and you're stuck fighting the right side that's got some truths on their side and a bunch of other falsities, and you're fighting each other to defend whose falsities are more true. Now, I'm just being very abstract, but I'm going to go ahead and get into it, okay? On the left, you got a complete denial of race realism. It's a push for all humans are equal. Let in the third world. White people are evil, despite the fact that they built the only civilizations that everybody seems to want to live into. Okay, Christianity is horrible. But in that camp is a very anti-Israel sentiment, which I don't think that the architects of the left thought through very well, right? The architects of the left, you can go ahead and look in who started feminism, who pushed the civil rights movement, who's behind communism, the main drives of the left. They were really concerned with creating a faction of the population that would be anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-Western, anti-European, and would sow the kind of division that gives them a cover, if you will. Okay, if the whole population is mongrelized and mixed, nobody's got any roots, nobody can notice when a certain ethnic tribe that is very coherent, very tight, and pushes its agenda consistently, no one can notice their control. What they weren't expecting is that side would then say, oh, well, we're going to apply all these philosophies of the evil of Western colonialism to Israel because you guys are white. Well, why would they think the Jews are white? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because the Jews always say they're white when they want to push the anti-white narrative, okay? So their golem has turned on them. We saw this with the protests at Columbia University, right? All the university protests that were pro-Palestinian. All of a sudden it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This isn't what we wanted you to do. We want you to attack Whitey. And the communists are like, you are Whitey. You've gone into Palestine. You are subjugating a population there. You're doing basically colonialism, but it's actually way worse than any kind of Western colonialism because they are committing total ethnic genocide without any real provocation, not really, from the Palestinians. And if you want to say them fighting back from people who are seizing their land is provocation, then you've just fallen into the paradigm. Now, if you recognize that communism is a death knell for society, if you recognize the realities of race and biology and the fact that there's only two genders, that puts you in a right paradigm. Great, right? You're thinking right. Wrong, because on this paradigm, it's we got to stand behind Israel no matter what. And if you don't fit in that paradigm, you're a communist, okay? So this is my big mission is to break people out of these camps so that you can actually be free to pursue the truth. If you look at Fox News right now and any of these kind of right-wing media companies, OANN, they're all pushing the pro-Israel. The crazy Islamic terrorists, the Iranians are building nuclear weapons, and they're so dangerous. This is very similar to when they told us Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. They pushed that. Colin Powell, they just repeated it over and over and over again. And back then, we didn't have the internet like we do now. Some people still knew it was false. And they kept, then they start remember I said it's a controlled narrative. Oh, we're not going to, the anti-war people kept parroting no blood for oil. So they make up the conspiracy, right, that we're fighting in Iraq and we're fighting Saddam Hussein for oil to disguise that actually we're fighting Iraq for Netanyahu and Israel and their agendas. So this is the way they put you guys in paradigms. Now, how do I know? Well, I don't know if you guys know, but Netanyahu came and made a speech to Congress after 9/11, using 9/11, which if you really dug deep into 9/11, the dancing Israelis would come up for you, and you'd be like, convenient. There's a terrorist attack on our soil, and suddenly we have to go fight one of Israel's enemies. And Israel's president is coming to our country and talking about how it's really important for us to go ahead and kill Saddam Hussein, even though there's no connection from him to the terrorist attacks. So here's Netanyahu at our Congress saying lies, blatant lies.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. And I think that people sitting right next door in Iran, young people, and many others will say, the time of such regimes, of such despots, is gone. There is a new age. Something new is happening.
And that is speculation on your part, or you have some evidence to that effect?
I was asked the same question in 1986. I had written a book in which I had said that the way to deal with terrorist regimes, with terror, was to deal with the terrorist regimes. And the way to deal with the terrorist regimes, among other things, was to apply military force against them.
The way we did in Afghanistan.
The way, for example, I want to answer your question.
I guess I'm running out of time, so I quickly was trying to get to. We've done, I think, what you proposed in Afghanistan, yet I haven't seen that sort of neighborhood effect.
Well, I think there's been an enormous effect. The effect was, we were told that there would be a contrary effect. First of all, people said that there would be tens of thousands of people streaming into Afghanistan, zealots who would be outraged by America's action, and this would produce a counter-reaction in the Arab world.
But I think you're not saying that when you take an action like we did in Afghanistan, we're going to see all the other countries just fold.
No, what we saw is something else. Be saw everybody streaming out of Afghanistan. The second thing we saw is all the Arab countries and many Muslim countries trying to side with America, trying to be okay with America. The application of power is the most important thing in winning the war on terrorism. If I had to say, what are the three principles of winning the war on terror? It's like, what are the three principles of real estate, the three L's, location, location, location? The three principles of winning the war on terror are the three W's, winning, winning, and winning. The more victories you amass, the easier the next victory becomes.
How did that go for us? How did that war in Afghanistan go for us? Did we amass a great amount of victories? How did it go? Are we winning the war on terror? So funny that Netanyahu should bring up terror and the terrorist regimes and how we must use force. I mean, first of all, this guy is a blatant liar. Look at him.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous
Very vague. I guarantee. What are you going to get? How could you guarantee that? How would you know? Okay. Also, why are you so interested in America coming in and fighting Iraq? Why is that so important to you? You really care about America? Really? Because when we went to fight Iraq, you sent exactly 0 troops to help us. And when we went into Afghanistan, you sent exactly 0 troops to help us then. So, really, you're so concerned? Or do you just want to use American boys to fight your wars? Because it doesn't cost you anything, and we're just goys to be used for whatever goal you have. Okay? And then if you say this, they're going to call you anti-Semitic because there's no real defense against it. And so the only thing they can do is resort to mudslinging, name-calling, and this anti-Semitic propaganda has been going on for so long that it's supposed to leave you with no defenses. But when you say, all right, fine, anti-Semitic, don't care, what's the truth? Then they got nothing left because that's their last. They just want to discredit you. What they're hoping is that the viewer watching this can go, oh, they are anti-Semitic. I'm just going to discard them because this is what the propaganda has done to the American mind. Now, if you don't remember their little call for why we needed to go into Iraq, let's remember when they brought this girl, Naira, who I believe was the daughter of the ambassador to Iraq, and she talked about the killing of the babies in the incubators. This is the one that got everybody on board.
Desert sand, and help came from Saudi Arabia. I stayed behind and wanted to do something for my country.
No tears. There's no tears. There's no tears, okay? You could have got this girl a little bit better acting lessons so she could learn how to cry on cue. But, I guess water is, pretty scarce in the desert, so she couldn't spare it.
After an invasion, I volunteered at the Al-Adan hospital with 12 other women who wanted to help as well. I was the youngest volunteer. The other women were from 20 to 30 years old. While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
Oh, they needed guns for that.
It was horrifying.
It was so horrifying.
Think of my nephew.
I can't even cry right now. Yeah, so this ended up being a total fucking hoax. It was a total lie. Okay? Let me remind you that Israel had no problem bombing hospitals and schools because Hamas was using them as human shields and to hide weapons in the tunnels. So we got to kill some babies. Oh well. If you dare to say anything, express any desire to not go to war on behalf of Israel, they gaslight you, they call you an anti-Semite.
Anti-Semitic platforms like Gab have no place in Texas and certainly do not represent Texas values. What does represent Texas values is legislation like this by Representative King and Representative Coburn that fights anti-Semitism in Texas.
Of course, they are saying, hey, we can do it ourselves. We don't need you.
Israel can take care of herself. They say that I want America to fight wars for Israel. Nope. First of all, Israel can take care of herself.
Yeah, they can take care of herself with our money and our soldiers. Totally. Somebody posted that in response to Axios saying, reporting that Israel urges U.S. to join war with Iran to eliminate nuclear program. Come, join us. We must get rid of the crazy Muslim. We're going to get into the Muslim terrorist boogeyman and who actually created that. And before you guys start me, I'm not pro-Muslim at all, okay? You want to be Muslim? That's fine, okay? I want to go to heaven. I don't really care about people being Muslim as long as they're Muslim in their country. What I don't want is a bunch of Muslims coming to Western countries and setting up Sharia law and trying to change the culture to suit them. And then if we start looking at who brought the Muslims into our country, you're not going to like it. So I'm not over here being pro-Muslim and if they're terrorists, pro-terrorist. No, I just want to leave them alone. Let them live in their little desert life with their burqas and their dates and their camels. Every group of people has a right to self-determination. The problem is Israel wants to be the world's controller and judge and determinant about how everybody should live. They're the ones having a problem with every Muslim country and demanding that they be exterminated. Okay. By the way, they have the same problem with Western countries because they accuse every Western country who doesn't want to take in all the Muslim refugees that they create of racism. And every Western country that doesn't support them of anti-Semitism. So just 2 days after Israel strikes Iran, in which they were saying, we don't need America, we're going to fight our own war, they come out and ask for America's support, right? So we had all the pro-Israel accounts on here saying, no, we can defend ourselves, right? Here's this nice, probably paid Mossad agent. No one's asking the United States to go to war with the Islamic Republic in Iran to attack them. Okay, Israel as always, really, as always, since their creation of their state in 1946, when they've been getting billions of dollars in U.S. aid, okay, 263 billion. That's what's on record, by the way, okay? Here's what you guys don't realize. Not only does the national government give billions of taxpayer dollars to Israel, every state in America gives funding to Israel from the state income taxes, from state money, okay? Every city in America has a proportion of its tax dollars that they give to Israel. Recently, the city of San Marcos, Texas, said they didn't want to give, I think it was like $4 million that they give annually, which may not seem a lot until you realize the population of San Marcos is really small. But they're giving some amount of money every year to Israel, and they did an audit, and they were like, well, we don't want to do that. We really have a lot of things that we need to fix in our city. And the governor of Texas, Governor Abbott, came down and said, oh, there's going to be serious repercussions if you keep up with this anti-Semitic rhetoric. So it's anti-Semitic for a city to want to keep the citizens' money in the city to improve the lives of citizens. So Governor Greg Zionist Abbott said San Marcos is going to face defunding over anti-Semitic Israel ceasefire resolution. So there was about $4.4 million in San Marcos resident taxes go to Israel. Now, if you want to explain to me why a small city in the middle of Texas is taking a portion of its taxpayer citizens and sending it to a foreign country, I'd be all ears, okay? And if you have a good explanation that doesn't involve the total Zionist control of our government and our government officials that actually makes sense, I'm going to be willing to listen. But there isn't anything that makes sense unless you understand that all of our officials are bought and paid for by Israel. That's why we have these pro-Israel policies. It has nothing to do with us getting a beneficial relationship. Does the city of San Marcos get a return on its $4.4 million investment in Israel? What's the benefit? Do they go to Israel and get free health care if they wanted to? Do they get free trips to Israel? I love watching the right crumble and try to assemble a explanation for why we have to go to war with Israel.
Now, Scott Horton, editorial director of antiwar.com. Scott, appreciate you doing this.
How could it be bad? How could it be bad to be anti-war? Can someone explain that to me?
I think Israel has the right to do this and to defend itself.
There we go. There's the framing of the question. It's not, hey, should we conscript American boys and girls to go put their bodies and lives on the line for a foreign country that not only has never returned the favor, but actually has attacked us, okay? Attacked us blatantly, if you know the USS Liberty story, but also subtly if you actually know what's happening with these terrorist attacks.
And or do you think that this is just a bad idea?
Well, yeah, two separate questions. the way you framed it was launching an aggressive war is defending itself, but that's just because you say it that way. In any other contest, of course, it's completely illegal. This is what Japan did to us at Pearl Harbor, the day of infamy against a country that wasn't attacking them. And so that was what was going on here. And the fact is, they were in the middle of negotiations. And the reporting now is that Trump was actually shining the Iranians on and was pretending to negotiate with them and was telling them,
let's just insert a couple
public
things.
statements that he had.
It was Israel that was
Israel
attacked on October 7th by an Iranian proxy and by Hezbollah. It was also.
Did you guys hear that? So he rightly pulls up here that, Iran wasn't attacking Israel. And now this nice little goy shill here has to go ahead and do a little sneaky thing with the language and go, well, Israel was attacked by an Iranian proxy, Hezbollah or Hamas or whatever. That's the first time I've ever heard that. I've never heard them claim before that that Hamas was an Iranian proxy. For what we knew, Hamas was the Palestinians' defense against being genocided.
So Israel that was attacked by Iran. It was also.
So now he's lying, just blatantly lying, okay? Israel was attacked by Iran supposedly on October 7th of 2023. So now, a year and a half later, Israel has to attack Iran for that.
Groups that were attacked by Iran. Nevertheless, who in their right mind?
So he's got to skip over that real quick. He's got to skip over it real quick and go to something else because he knows his point is indefensible.
Regime that runs around chanting death to America, death to Israel, or if someone was running around chanting death to Scott Horton, would you want them to have a nuclear bomb?
Well, the thing of it is, as I'm sure you must know, as the CIA and the rest of the intelligence community concluded back in 2007, Iran stopped even researching into how to make a nuclear bomb after George Bush got rid of Saddam Hussein for them. They had no more need for a nuclear weapon at that time. They opened up their books, and everyone watching this knows that Netanyahu has said they're a few weeks away from a bomb for the last 20 years. They still don't have a single one. And in February, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, put out the threat assessment, the annual threat assessment. Everyone can read it at dni.gov. And it says that they have not made the decision to begin to pursue a nuclear weapon.
You don't think that the Israelis have better intelligence? Come on.
No. Look, there's nothing saying that late Israeli claims of recent advancement are true. No one else is confirming that at all. In fact, what they had all along, Leland, was a latent nuclear deterrent. It's the same as Germany or Japan or Brazil, where they had shown that they had perfected the fuel cycle. They know how to make nuclear weapons fuel, but they're not making it. And so what has happened here is with this attack, I know you want to hoist up your mission accomplished banner, but with this attack, they're actually more likely to pursue nuclear weapons now. We had a deal before
that they kept breaking.
That they were not in violation of, that Donald Trump tore up at Netanyahu's behest in 2018. Under that deal.
Why do you hate Benjamin Netanyahu so much?
There we go. Where did Scott say anything that was hateful about Netanyahu? So saying that Donald Trump appeased Netanyahu's request to tear up this agreement that we had with Iran suddenly amounts to hating Netanyahu. Saying that you don't want to defend Israel in a war it started amounts to anti-Semitism, right? So this is their little game. This is the thing you have to free yourself from so that you don't fall for it. Now, you might be like, okay, Leonardo, fine. I agree with you. Israel started this war, but Iran really is a terrorist nation. And we really have to be afraid of these Muslim terrorists. Okay. I would highly encourage you guys to go watch an actual good documentary about 9/11 and see who really had to benefit and who did benefit from the attacks on U.S. soil. The company that was in charge of airport security and screenings, they were the key defendant in the 9/11 tort litigation, was called ICTS. And it was Dutch-based aviation transportation security that was established in 1982 by former members of Israeli secret police, the Shin Bet. Okay? Why is our security aviation company formed by the Israeli secret police? Don't you think that an American security company should be formed by Americans? It would seem to be a vulnerability in our security system to allow a foreign nation to control this system, even if they really are our greatest ally, okay? I'm not going to let my best friend take care of my husband while she walks around naked. She might be my best friend. That seems like a vulnerability I don't want. In a 2014 interview with Gilead Atzmon, Menschenhem's cousin confirmed that he was working with Shaul Eisenberg, a senior Israeli Mossad operative who tried to get the security contract for the World Trade Center in 1987, okay, along with two other Israelis. They worked closely with the Israeli spy, Rafi Eitan, and with the Mossad chief who predicted that in 1997, the Arabs would attack the tallest building in New York City. Now, so he predicted, right? So watch when you see all these Israelis predicting an Iran terror attack on U.S. soil. Just watch. It says 9/11 may seem like an isolated incident, but ICTS also handled the Charles de Gaulle airport outside Paris when a shoe bomber boarded a U.S.-bound plane in December 2001. The London bus network during the July 7, 2005 suicide bombing. The Amsterdam Schiphol Airport on December 25, 2009, when suicide bomber Umar Farouk, whatever, managed to pass through the security despite having an only one-way ticket and no luggage. The Brussels Airport, the scene of a bomb attack on March 22, 2016. So either the security company is doing a really bad job of stopping terrorist attacks, or there is just a uncanny coincidence between we missed it and oh well, now you're all dead. Now, if you're like me and you go through TSA, you will notice that it's usually a bunch of fat black ladies who don't seem like they can stop anything except a tuna sandwich. I even had a Muslim woman in a hijab screening me, okay? Now, I thought the Muslims were the people we needed to screen. So ICTS is the Israeli airport security company that's supposed to be keeping us safe. The underwear bomber gets through. Then this guy, Michael Chertoff, all of a sudden starts going all over the media advertising body scanners. Hey, this guy might have a bomb in his dick. So we need to put him through a scanner. So he owns the company. He pushes this whole body imaging machine, which, by the way, probably gives you cancer because you're going through a microwave, okay? Now, you guys may not know this. Okay, if you just pay like $100, you can go through TSA pre-check and then you just go through the metal detector, which only gives you a little bit of cancer. But if you don't want to do that, you don't travel that much, you can opt out of the screening process. They never tell you that, but you absolutely should. Okay, because if massive amount of people start opting out of their X-ray machine, they're gonna have to stop. Okay. And so if you're wondering, why do I have to go through this body scanner? It's because an Israeli named Michael Chertoff needs to make his money. That's why. That's why you have to get cancer. They don't care about you. But you can opt out and request a pat down. What that means is they're going to pull you to the side. They're going to make you wait a little bit because they want to punish you. Doesn't fucking matter. Everybody should do it. Then they take you down. And what's nice is you get a nice groping, usually by a member of your own sex. So if you're gay, it's even more of a reason to do it. And it'll be good, when they're doing it, if you start moaning, right? Just start moaning, make them real uncomfortable, make it seem like you're enjoying it, okay? So this is what's going on. This is why when they start talking about, the terrorists, I'm like, it's you. You're the terrorists. When you warn us about a terrorist attack, you're threatening us. And people need to understand that so they don't act like stupid sheeple and be like, America, we're going to kill them Muslims, them bad Muslim terrorists, okay? You got Muslims living all over this country, all right? And I'm not saying that's great. You just have this huge mosque that bought all this land in Texas, going to build a nice Muslim compound. Great, excellent. Why don't you guys go do that in a Muslim country? Why don't you go build a nice Christian compound in the middle of a Muslim country? Let's see how it works out. If Trump does go into war and does not do the remigration, which is what it looks like, then he is in fact going to go down as one of the worst presidents in human history, right next to Woodrow Wilson, who started this whole chain of events by selling us into debt with the signing of the Federal Reserve Act. We'll see, but trust no one, not even yourself.